Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about creating your own television program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
Now, was that the gal that... We volunteer. I've cooked back there before.
Hello, and welcome to our show, The American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. Carl Fowler is co-host. Also joining us today is Gary Becker, a Vietnam vet. Our guest today is Dave Jones. He's a Vietnam vet, Purple Heart. Welcome to our show, Dave.
Glad to be here.
And when did you go into the service?
I got drafted in '67. I was in school. I was in college, and
oh, was you?
Got my notice.
Drafted you out of college?
Yeah, got my notice over Christmas vacation.
They didn't let you finish?
No. I tried to, because I was going back. Actually, I was in Air Force ROTC because I wanted to be a Air Force pilot.
Yeah.
And so I tried to work things out for about a month, but then I decided to go on in. They were really after a lot of guys, and so I went on in and into the Army.
Okay.
You took basic where?
Took my basic at Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg, yeah.
And then from Fort Bragg went to Jackson, South Carolina. And then from Jackson, South Carolina, I went to, well, I got my orders from Jackson, South Carolina as a door gunner with the 1st Cav. And I was excited about that.
You're one of those guys.
Yeah, I was excited about that. And then about an hour later, the commander came to me and said they were changing my orders because my twin brother was in the Marines, and he was in Vietnam at the time, and so they would not send brothers in the same combat zone at that time.
Yeah.
So they changed my orders, which was infantry anyways, and sent me to Fort Knox for 3 weeks to learn how to operate APCs, Army Personnel Carriers. And then from Fort Knox, I got sent to Fort Hood, Texas, with the 1st Armored Division. And then when my twin brother got his orders to come home, I got mine to go over. Okay. And they sent me to the other end of Fort Hood, to Hell on Wheels, 2nd Armored Division. And they were bringing it, and they were forming a brand new battalion and bringing guys in from all over the United States. And we formed up there at Fort Hood, Texas, and then went from Fort Hood, Texas to Vietnam.
You went as a group then, or
the whole battalion? Unit? They flew the whole battalion over to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was it just personnel? Did you take equipment and everything?
They flew our equipment over.
They flew it
and
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Did they ship any of them over?
They flew us. They flew us.
Yeah.
Some fellows were able to go over by ship, and a lot of guys preferred that because that counted on your time in combat during service.
Yeah.
Which is like 30 days.
Sure.
But they flew us right into Chu Lai, Vietnam.
Yeah. Okay. And what outfit was you with then in Vietnam?
I was the 198th Infantry.
Of course, that was the battalion you went with.
Right.
Yeah.
198th Infantry, Maricao Division.
Yeah.
Which Maricao was if you look, it was also called the I Corps. There were, I think, 4 corps in Vietnam.
Was there?
And the Maricao was the I Corps, number 1, really, the 1st Corps.
Yeah. What was your MOS? Your job?
11 Bravo Infantry, ground pounder, grunt.
Yeah. What weapon did you carry?
Carried the M16 and a 45.
Okay. Is that a good weapon, the 16?
M16 is a good weapon.
Yeah.
Good weapon.
'Cause they had trouble, I think, with one of them. I don't know if it was a M14 or,
Well, we trained also. I trained also on the M14 and the machine gun, but we carried an M16. They issued us all brand new M16s when we got there because they were having troubles with the chambers rusting because of the environment. So they issued us all new M16s where they chrome plated the interior of the weapon.
in Cosmoline.
Yeah, my weapon never jammed or anything, gave me any trouble.
Good.
Okay.
Uh,
They're still using that today, aren't they? The M16s.
Yeah, it's been modified quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, upgraded.
But
Sure.
it's a good weapon.
Just had to keep it clean, right?
Just kept it clean. Yeah, and that usually was, I usually
That's
did.
where the downfall was. A lot of guys wouldn't keep them clean.
Yeah, I just dump it in a river or stick it under a waterfall and keep on going.
I'll be darned. Yeah, good.
Yep.
I see you got an oval patch there that says tunnel rat. I bet that was
Yeah, we
take a lot of nerve.
we came across the Viet Cong dug a lot of tunnels in Vietnam
Yeah.
to get around and to hide in and such. And I remember we came across this tunnel. In fact, I can remember the lieutenant said, I'm standing there with my lieutenant, and somebody's going to have to volunteer to go in a tunnel to check it out. And I'm looking at that tunnel, and I take a picture of this tunnel. And of course, I'm not very big anyways, and I was a little bigger then, just because of being younger and a little sturdier. So I volunteered to be a tunnel rat. And the only reason I did is I said, well, if you make it through and you get home okay, and if you get married and have kids, you have something to tell your kids, So I became a tunnel rat. And, there's a lot of tunnels in Vietnam, and
Yeah, we've heard stories of what all they have in those tunnels, and it amazes me. Hospitals and
Yeah, they actually put dispensaries in there and everything.
yeah.
there were tunnels that you could barely crawl through, about the size of my body, and then there were tunnels where you could actually get in there, and eventually you could stand up.
Yeah.
We found a tunnel complex up north, way up north, that probably held 400 or 500 people underground.
Man.
And
Yeah.
some of the rooms you could walk in. Most of them you couldn't. Most of them, the only height was maybe I could sit up. And of course, you go in with they issue you earplugs and your 45 and a flashlight, and that's what you go into those tunnels with. And which is kind of a catch-22, because if you got your earplugs in, you can't hear.
Yeah.
And of course, and then if you don't have your earplugs in and you have to fire your weapon, you could just ruin your hearing for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so it became kind of a contest. I never put my earplugs in. I didn't like them anyways. And I had a tendency that crawling in a tunnel, which is pitch black, you can't see. And if I had to turn the flashlight on, I learned to hold the flashlight up as high as I could in the tunnel and turn it on, and if there was somebody going to shoot back at me, he'd shoot at the light.
Yeah.
And then of course I'd be hopefully down lower where I could return fire. But mostly, yeah.
Did you run into anybody down there?
A couple times, but they were as scared as I was, so they took off.
Yeah.
Because they always had an exit. The tunnel always had an exit somewhere.
Yeah.
And we mostly what I found in the tunnels was weapons and ammunition, maps, supplies.
Okay. Did they destroy the tunnel as they found them then? Or?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd
We
you
tried
do,
to.
How'd you do that? Just
Well, once I made it back out of the tunnel, which could be a couple hours or whatever, I'd always throw in a smoke grenade to see if we could spot smoke coming up anywhere else in the jungle.
yeah.
And then we usually try to destroy the entrance as much as we could with grenades and TNT.
Yeah.
Did you run into any booby traps?
Mostly what they, well,
I heard all kinds of stories what they'd put in there in case a ton of rat come in there. They put poisonous snakes in there.
yeah. And now and then
Rats.
they dump in a bunch of course you had your leeches, you know, they'd throw in a bunch of leeches, or then of course you had some scorpions, you know, running around. They'd throw those in there, and now and then you'd come across a snake, and you learn you learn to search a tunnel with your hands. You know, you use your hands forward.
Yeah.
So you feel with your hands, because you try not to use your flashlight.
Yeah.
And but yeah, snakes and scorpions.
Yeah, I'd heard all kinds of stories on them booby traps, because
cut glass. You put a lot of broken glass in there, things like this, and
anything to
slow you down or cut you up. But,
wound you.
Yeah. But and sometimes I'd get down in there, because some of these tunnels would go, 10 or 15 feet down in the ground, and I was able to sit up, so I'd just sit up and just take a break, because you'd listen, and it was nice and cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool down there. You're just sitting there, and then you start thinking. You can't do that too much, because you start thinking, what happens if this doggone thing caves in on you?
Yeah.
They'll never find you.
Yeah.
And so you do your job. And I remember one time we had a firefight, and we rounded everybody up in this village, and I was standing over by a banana tree, and I hear this sound behind me, and I whirl around it, and this Vietnamese lady comes walking out of the bush, and I wondered where she came from. So I looked back behind her, and there was a tunnel in the side of a little hill, and I looked in there, and I could see a bamboo pole going down in that hole. So I got ready, and you had to climb down this bamboo pole, which is about maybe 10 feet, and then it broke off at 90 degrees, at a 90-degree angle, where you went into the tunnel. And so I checked that tunnel out, and then climbed back up the pole and came back out. But yeah, I probably I don't know, I probably did 15 or 20 different tunnels maybe.
I think a tunnel rat is one of the most nerve-wracking jobs.
One of the bravest.
One of the bravest a guy could do. And,
you're right. That's a tough job.
And I think you took on a tough job when you volunteered.
That's what they say. Never volunteer for anything.
I made it and did my job, and
just did your job, didn't you?
Did you?
Yep.
Somebody had to do it.
I think if it had been me, I'd have stood there a little longer and hoping the lieutenant would have volunteered instead of me.
He was too big to go in the tunnels. The Viet Cong were small people.
All right. Okay. But you did your job, and that turned out real well for you, I imagine. Good.
Would you care to tell us about your Purple Heart? How you?
Well, the funny thing about, at least from my perspective, is it happens when you think it might happen. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And when it happens, it wasn't in your thoughts. You weren't thinking about it. Of course, you're always thinking about it, but there were times where, because we traveled in what they call hunter-killer teams, about 6 or 7 guys to a team, and you get into a situation where you set up an ambush, and the enemy is, they're so close to you, and you're trying to be just as absolutely as quiet as you can be. And that's when I made the comment, you can. I thought they could hear my heart beating.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out how to stop that from beating. Well, you can't. Yeah. And or you can hear your watch ticking. I mean, that's quiet.
Yeah.
And then that's when you think that things could really get bad, and you might not make it.
Yeah.
But at the end, in the end, you came through that okay. But I had orders to go pick up one of my lieutenants that was coming back from checking out of an area in operation that we were going into the next day. So my company commander asked me to get a Jeep and go pick him up. We were on our battalion base camp. And so I grabbed another lieutenant of mine and a driver, and we hopped in the Jeep and took off to go to this particular location in the jungle. And on the way, they wanted me to stop at division headquarters, which was at Chu Lai, to pick up some beer for the company. Well, in a Jeep, back in the back there behind the front seats, that hole there will hold exactly 7 cases of beer. And so I picked up 7 cases of beer, and we took off to go get my lieutenant. And we travel, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles, and we get back into the jungle at this designated area that we were supposed to meet his helicopter. And we get there, and eventually it starts getting darker, and pretty soon it gets real dark. It's nighttime. Well, his helicopter finally shows up, and they drop him off, and we're standing there by the Jeep, and I'm wanting to stay there. I didn't want to go back. I wanted us to camp there, and supposedly it was my mission. So here's my 2 lieutenants, Lieutenant Kerr and Lieutenant Tucker. And the ranking officer always sits in the shotgun seat in the vehicle, and then you go clockwise in rank. And so they were trying to decide who was going to sit in the front seat there. And I interrupted them. I said, well, I think I am, because this is my mission. And Lieutenant Tucker says, Jones, what's that on your sleeve? And I said, I'm a sergeant. He says, what's that on my collar? I said, you're a lieutenant. He says, RHIP, rank has its privilege. So Lieutenant Kerr graduated 30 minutes before Tucker. So he said, well, I graduated 30 minutes before you, so I got rank here. So it was getting kind of funny, you know. So anyway, Lieutenant Kerr gets in the shotgun seat. Tucker's right behind him, and I'm off behind the driver, and then my driver. And we start heading back, and we get on Highway 1, and we're going down Highway 1 and with no headlights. And we're getting close to our battalion base camp, and a culvert had been blown up the night before by the Viet Cong. And so my driver knew about where that was. So he'd slowed down, and well, the Viet Cong had set up an ambush there. And they ambushed as we were going through that construction area there. And of course, everything happens really fast. Yeah. My driver was able to. He drove us through the ambush, and we tried to return fire as best we could. The canvas was on the Jeep because it was monsoon season, and I remember getting off a few rounds, and I know Lieutenant Tucker did, but then I noticed that Lieutenant Kerr was about ready to fall out of the Jeep, so I leaned up over there and grabbed him because he'd been. It ended up he was hit about 8 or 9 times, and mostly in both his legs, and especially in his left leg. And so I was leaning over him, and I was going to try to stop the bleeding. So I ended up having to take my belt off and wrap it around his leg, his upper thigh there, to slow that bleeding down. And then I leaned over him and held his leg for him. And so we were able to. Driver was able to drive out of the ambush, and we finally get to battalion and get up to the helicopter pad, and they had a medevac waiting there, and they loaded, and then Lieutenant Tucker was also hit, and then so I'm sitting there in the Jeep, and the medic asked me if I'd been hit, and I said I don't know. So and just about that time, it felt funny on my backside, so I put my hand back there, and I'd been hit in the lower back. Yeah. So they threw me on the helicopter in medevac, and they flew us to Chu Lai and took us into the operating room there at Chu Lai and worked on us, and then moved us out in the hallway. And Lieutenant Kerr was going to be sent home because his time was over. I mean, And then Tucker got set one place, and I got sent out and put into a tent to heal up a little bit. So I was there about 4 days, and then they sent me back into combat.
And what happened to all the beer?
You know, I was laying in my bunk the next day in the hospital, and here comes my executive battalion commander, my company commander, my first sergeant. He's carrying my flak jacket, my helmet, and my M16, and a 6-pack of beer. Out of 7 cases, 6 cans survived that ambush.
Probably pretty shook up too, weren't they?
There's 6 cans. That's all.
I thought I remembered something about that story from before, and I just wanted you to tell it again. That lieutenant, what was his name? Kerr?
Lieutenant Kerr.
Yeah, did he survive? I mean, everything okay now?
About 22 years later, I'd heard that he was a lawyer in Las Vegas.
Oh.
So I came here to the library because I wanted to try to find him. And a gentleman upstairs says, well, let's get on the computer.
Yeah.
So he did the work, and by golly, his name popped up at this law office in Las Vegas. So got the phone number, and the next day I called his office, and the secretary answered, and I told her who I was, and I said, now don't hang up on me because I want to ask you some things, and I don't want you to think this is some kind of crank call. And I asked her if she had a John Kerr that was a lawyer. And I said, does John Kerr have to use a cane or crutches when he walks? And she said, yeah, most of the time he does. I said, okay. I said, I want you to do me a favor. I said, I want you to write down November 2nd, 1968, 7:15 p.m. and then just put my phone number at the bottom, my cell phone number. Don't say anything, just go lay it on his desk. He happened to be in his office. Just go lay it in front of him on his desk and don't say a word. 15 minutes later, he called me. And we probably talked for an hour.
Yeah.
We had a nice visit.
Yeah.
You make those lasting relationships when you're in the service, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Especially under certain circumstances.
And they're good.
Yeah.
They're good relationships.
Yep.
Yeah. You probably saved his life.
Yep.
Yeah.
He'd have probably bled out. You wouldn't have put that tourniquet on him.
Yeah, it was a sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did you serve in
That's 14 months.
14 months. Is that what is the standard then?
12, 13.
12.
12 was normal.
Yeah. that's
Then
what I
they'd pull you.
thinking.
If you got close, everybody would say you're getting short.
Yeah.
It means you haven't got much time to go in country, you know.
Yeah.
And so then you'd rotate out. Most of the time they'd pull you out of the field.
Yeah.
In 30, if you had 30 days or less. If they could spare you, they'd pull you out.
Yeah.
Because you were more vulnerable then to get.
Yeah, and some guys,
To
as
get
soon
hit.
as soon as they knew they had 30 days, they wouldn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want to go out on patrols or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
That's-
And then you can be overly
Cautious.
and you lose your edge, you know.
Sure.
If you lose that edge, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because you got to be on your toes
Not only for yourself, but for
the guy next to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have your head on a swivel over there.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what's going on.
The funny thing is, I remember we were searching out this one village because the enemy had a tendency to come in there and steal their food, and so we camped away from the village up on this high hill, and it's a pretty country. And I remember, and you really get tired. I mean, you're just super tired. And I remember waking up one morning, and I took slides while I was over there, and I took a picture of the valley and all that. And I was so tired. I said, maybe today I'll get wounded, but not very bad.
Yeah.
And I can get sent back to where I can get some sleep. Because you're just so tired because you don't get much sleep at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when I said that, so later on when you're not expecting it, that's when it happens.
Yeah.
Remember our last show, individual said that the smart ones got sent to Vietnam.
Yeah.
The ones that wasn't quite that smart got sent to Germany or elsewhere.
Yeah.
So you guys being sent to Vietnam tells me something.
We had guys that were I remember a fellow in my platoon was working on his PhD in history at the University of Maryland. We had every walk of life.
They wanted people there that could think.
Every
Yeah, we had every kind, didn't you?
every kind.
Yeah.
We had you know, we
had a
had
lot of-
law students, we had medical students, business guys.
And then we'd have a lot of criminals, and
Yeah, for a while there,
they took anybody, you know,
Yeah.
they don't do it now, but
No.
at that time they,
anybody and everybody.
yeah,
I'm afraid you're going to have to go back to the draft.
they should.
Yeah.
They should.
I had one guest on one time, and I says, how'd you know who your enemy was? He says, if they're hiding behind a tree, he says, he's your enemy.
Yeah, we fought with a lot of, not the farther we got up north, we'd run into the more sophisticated North Vietnamese army.
Yeah.
But most of our guys, the ones we hunted down were the good army, Viet Cong army. We called Mr. Charlie,
I see.
and then the other ones below that we'd call the Viet Cong.
Uh-huh.
They just ragtag.
They were the hit and run guys and
Yeah.
and things like that. But you'd run into some of the better equipped guys up north.
Did they take you by helicopter quite often, or
Yeah, we did a lot of
that?
they'd transport us by helicopter to a landing zone and drop us off, and then you do your maneuvers, your hunting, and then you usually got picked up at another spot sooner or later.
Did you have people? Did you have a secure landing zone most of the time, or?
No, you just pop smoke and they come in and get you, and hopefully.
Yeah,
and
let's hope there wasn't nobody there.
Yeah, there were a lot of times that you were in a firefight at the
Just to
same
get out.
time, just to get out of the place. Yeah.
When you did your ambushes and everything, did you guys set your claymores out?
Oh yeah.
Give your claymores everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We always put claymores out
Yeah. Most of our
so we could
ambushes,
catch them in a crossfire.
most of our ambushes were at night, and you know, if you set up your claymores and your booby traps 100 feet down a trail or something like that, and then later on in the night you decide you're going to move, you got to go get that stuff,
Yeah.
and you know you got to be careful. So it's because it's dark.
Yeah.
But most of our we'd hide during the day and fight at night.
Yeah.
Not always, but
Well, that's when they was moving around, wasn't it? It was
around
at night.
yeah. We caught three Vietnamese ladies one night smuggling ammo and some ammunition and some weapons up into the mountains, and they weren't too happy with us when we stopped them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But and we had a young fellow about 18 years old walk into one of our ambushes, and he had been dumped in the jungle by the Vietnamese or Viet Cong that he was traveling with because he was sick, and we were able to. We didn't shoot him. We just captured him and took care of him, fed him, and we had a Vietnamese interpreter with us, and got a lot of information from that 18-year-old boy.
Yeah.
They didn't want to take care of him. Is
No,
that it?
they didn't want to take care of him.
Yeah.
But they knew you would,
Yeah.
probably.
And in a firefight, if you accidentally killed a farmer's family member or something like that, there's no charge for that. But if you killed his water buffalo, you had to pay him $50.
I see. Davey, we're out of time. Thank you for on the show, and
You bet.
thank you for your service.
You bet. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dave, for your service.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
you.
too, Gary.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, freedom is not free. So if you see someone in uniform or see a veteran, just walk up to them, shake their hands, and say thank you for your service. Thank you, and good night.